And hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the F4L Headquarters Podcast. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Well, alright, here we go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a little while since we've had F4L Headquarters Podcast, and I apologize. As you guys know, last show we had, I was letting you guys know I was heading to Hunt Valley, Maryland, and we'll chat about that in a little bit. This is, for another few minutes or so, this is Throwback Thursday, so, Ants, take us to segment 1. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, yes, Throwback Thursday. So first of all, let's look back to just last Thursday. This time last Thursday, I was getting ready for... this time last Thursday, I was in Hunt Valley, Maryland. I gotta say, does anybody else have this thing where it's either really long one way, it's either really a long trip going to some place, or it's a lot faster coming home? Does anybody else have this issue? Let me explain what I mean. Whenever I have driven to any of these shows or anything else, I always find that it tends to take a little longer to get down than it does to get home. I don't know why that is. However, when I take the train down, because I'm currently in the process of working on getting another car, as priorities in life and so forth has prevented me from getting another one. But as I like to demonstrate, if you need to get places in life, there are multiple ways to do so. And, well, I am one that can, so here I am. And I am living proof of the very fact that I can get pretty much anywhere as long as I know how to get there and have proper means to get to places. Me, for example, I can take a train, I can take a bus, I can fly, and whatnot. And if worse comes to worse, my favorite means of transportation, I can walk. Depending, but clearly I was not going to walk to Hunt Valley, Maryland, or home. So, getting down, really not much of an issue. I went down with minimal issues getting down there. I had forgotten that New York Comic Con was the same week, so I remember that it was like I boarded the train early, as I'm always early for everything, including an early train, so it makes sense, I guess. And as I was getting on the train, I got to about Connecticut, and as I was writing, I had looked up and I had seen someone who looked like they were dressed as like Obi-Wan Kenobi go by my seat. And, because I was on my way to Monster Mania 56, which was an amazing time, by the way, because of that, I was... I played it off as it's early in the morning, I haven't had a lot of coffee yet, and clearly I am mistaken, I have conventions on the mind, so clearly a gentleman is not dressed as Obi-Wan Kenobi at 8 o'clock in the morning on this train. And of course, as the person went back to their seat, it turned out, yes, that person very well was dressed as Obi-Wan Kenobi, so now I'm like, well, wait a minute now, what is going on here? And I looked into it. And, of course, New York Comic Con is this weekend, as well as Monster Mania, as well as a martial art tournament in New Jersey. as well as all kinds of other things that happen in our general area. Apparently there are 3 conventions in our area, as well as a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament up in Atlantic City, as well as New York Comic Con, the largest pop culture convention on the East Coast, and of course Monster Mania, the show in which that I am proud to be part of and associate and work with. So let's first of all chat about getting down there. Like I said, not so much of an issue, other than getting over the general shock of that this was a little different. To see people already cosplayed as Obi-Wan Kenobi at 8 o'clock in the morning. There was definitely a lot more people on the train. I should have known there was something up. But it was cool to see so many people, eager, and so many people doing things. That's an exciting thing to see. Not long ago, I want to remind people that everyone was afraid and everyone was willing to put their goals and dreams on hold because of fear. Regardless if they were right or, and yeah, we needed to take that break, and that was good to have. And it's nice to see that things are getting back to semi-normal. And it is nice to go around places and be treated as a human and not like you're a disease, as it has felt up until recently. I've traveled now a few times now, and as the more I travel, the less restrictions, the less annoying it gets, I guess you'd say, as far as someone coughs or sneezes due to dry mouth or whatever the case may be, and everyone looks at you with 4 heads, like you have something wrong with you. And people generally can have a dry mouth or early in the morning, or can have a sneeze. These are natural bodily functions. Does not make someone sick or give them the plague. I'm happy to report that I wasn't sick before, during, or after Monster Mania. But during the time down there, it was a great time. I had also kept up with people who were doing other things in the general area. What's interesting is I was seeing that there was a tournament going on in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And I had to actually look up where they have martial art tournaments in New Jersey. As when I was younger, they weren't held in all the way down in Atlantic City when I was younger. It was up in Newark that we used to travel to compete in. Again, we traveled in schools, and we didn't go to Atlantic City for such things to compete in these freestyle tournaments. So, but it's interesting that pretty much the rising stars of the future of UFC were all taking part in that tournament. The Adele boys were there in full force, as well as all of their trainees and all that stuff. I saw some other people who were absolute beasts who were there. People who I predicted to be future UFC champions. Actually, it's interesting. Almost everybody who I predicted to be future UFC stars, all, coincidentally enough, did really, really well over the weekend and have successfully done their own successes. For example, the Adele boys dominated in form in Atlantic City, as well as Connor Stellamater. I said I talked about him before. He was one of those 14. 1 second here. Yeah, Connor Stelmer had a really good time. And, he had said something, Connor Stelmer, that really, really resonated with me. He said, performing in front of your family is an amazing feeling. That is true. When you have that luxury, and when you have that ability, when you have that support system. And you know what, truth be told, I wish I had. When I competed, I wish I had my family there. Some of them. But what I had found was, as time went on, and the F4L started coming to my tournaments, and stuff like that, the family that I made, I found that it's generally was less stress, and I had a lot of pride because I had the respect of the people of the dojo. I had the respect of the fans in the audience. I had the respect from the person across the mat from me, my dojo, my sensei, all of the students. And the students across the way from us and all the other senseis and the other students that we competed against on a regular basis, I had the respect of all those people. And in that house, in those places, on a mat, in a ring, on a field, in a pool, it doesn't matter where it is, I am a somebody there because I hold my own and I rise above that. But to perform in front of people who there is an extra oomph, there's an extra ounce of adrenaline that you get. When I became a pro wrestler and I performed in front of the F4L and some of my friends and stuff like that, there was no better feeling to see, to have them there to witness me living a dream. And which is why the foolish person that I am, next year, I return to pro wrestling so that my kids and anyone who has not seen me compete before gets to see me do what I do best. As next year in 2024, I return to pro wrestling and put on the shows of shows so that my kids and others who didn't get to see me the first time around get to say they see me at least once. I've been out of action since 2019 when I stepped out of the spotlight and gave it to other people. So I could spend time with my family, ultimately, is what the reason was. And I'm happy to say that years later, I am doing fantastic. I got to spend time with my family, got to see my kids, graduate high school. I got to spend that valuable time with them. My son and I started a YouTube wrestling show and all that stuff. And everything else has been magic. So I think it is about time that I return to doing something that I was good at. And returning to pro wrestling is something that I had dreamed of going into pro wrestling was something that I had always said I was going to do. And despite how many people doubted me or looked at me funny or made fun of me, I made those people believers. I proved them all wrong. And that's honestly something that I live for to this day. Proving others wrong. And, I can't wait to, become and get back into the ring to show my kids and everyone else that there's still plenty of fight left in this old dog. And no one's going to tell me when to quit. And in all honesty, no one told me to quit before. No one told me to step out of the ring. It was a conscious decision. I have many roles that I can do, and I have worked in multiple roles in various places. But to live by example is by far a greater aspect. So where our young friend Connor made a point about performing in front of family, to perform in front of the F4L, my family, and the people around all over the place, that is something that I live for. To be the beacon of hope, as I always have been tried. So that is something I look forward to next year. But that's next year, that's not Throwback Thursday. Let's get back to Thursday and this past weekend. That's in the past. So in general, Monster Mania went down without a hitch. It was a pleasant experience, I felt. Very minimal issues. People had difference of, how people were. I do have to make say a couple things here. I'm probably going to rattle some feathers of some of these people, but I'd rather be honest than not tell you how it is or to keep things to myself. That's not how I roll. Apparently, I was hearing different things from certain people who were guests at Monster Mania. One being Thomas Jane, who what I was told was not very nice. And I asked them, what does that mean, not nice? Well, apparently the person thought they weren't nice because Thomas Jane didn't want to sign 12 items by the same person. And he only agreed to sign 4. So that fan decided to call Thomas Jane a nasty name and made him out to be a villain because Thomas Jane didn't want to sign 12 items for this one person, but he only signed 4. What an inconsiderate person Thomas Jane is. I want to say this, and I'm going to make this thing really clear here. When I meet these people, when I work with these people, these guests, I have respect for what they've done. There are many of these people who come to these shows. They're not really caring about the person they're trying to meet. They're trying to go on eBay and build their status or build their ego or build their finances or whatever the case may be. And then when a celebrity gets upset by that, they call them out on that, people get all huffy about it. You want me to tell you why that's ignorant from my perspective? When you work in the film industry, you put your blood, your sweat, and your tears into doing that. And you have someone who pretends to be a fan who comes up to me, oh, can I have your autograph? In the day, in pro wrestling, we have the same thing. I'm sure sports have the same thing, pro athletes. Everyone who has ever had to sign this type of item, anyone who's ever been in the situation to sign an autograph or take a selfie, as they call it now, which drives me nuts, because, again, here's my philosophy on the selfie. If you have more than one person in the picture with you, it is no longer a selfie. I don't care who's taking the picture. If there's more than 2 people, it's no longer a selfie. If there's more than one person in the photograph, then it is now a photograph and not a, quote, selfie. Thank you very much on that. That's some proper lingo for you. Because how ridiculous does that sound? It's a selfie, but you're not the only one in the picture, so it can't be a selfie. I don't care who took the picture. If there's more than one person in the picture, it's no longer a selfie, it's a photograph. Welcome. Now, the other part about it is these people who dedicate their time and effort to building these memories with their films and their works, or whatever the case may be, whatever these people are doing in their time to entertain the masses, and then here you come with your bag full of goodies for them to sign, not because you respect them, not because you like their work, it's because you want to make money on their name. Because someone else can't get there, and someone else is too lazy and lives in their mom and dad's basement, doesn't want to go out there and get the job done themselves. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your money, go to these people and have them flip that, and you're going to take their signature that they gave to you and your false pretense to be a, quote, fan, and then you're going to sell it to someone who may be a fan, who probably would have loved to have met that person in general. Sorry, but that's the most incredibly rude and crass thing I've ever known. And I know a lot of people do it. I get it. And people like Corey Feldman apparently this weekend charged more if they wanted it not specified. In other words, if you just wanted Corey Feldman to sign his name, he charged more than he would if someone wanted it personalized to them. Because he wants to meet fans. He's there to meet his fans, not people who pretend to be fans. Do I have to be the voice of reason again and explain why that's ignorant? Do I ever get an autograph? If I do, I give them one in return. And I make the thing for them, and I want them to personalize it, because guess what? If I'm going to go to the lengths of getting someone else's signature, then you better believe that the reason I'm getting that person's signature is because I have the respect for them. And that signature is for me and me alone. When I die, I'll give it to my kids, and they can do whatever they want with the thing after I'm gone. But guess what? I'm the one that put the work in to going to the event, to walking in line, to going up to these people. So you're darn right that item is mine and mine alone. So before you start saying that someone's ignorant because they wouldn't sign 12 items just for you, you ignorant punk, think about what you're doing and why you ruined the business. Why you're disrespectful to the artist. Why you're disrespectful for that guest. Instead of saying he's rude because he signed only 4 of your items. How many of those items do you actually need in your house? Because we're not stupid and neither are they. So stop playing the thing like it's their fault because they won't sign 12 of your items, you troll. And that is across the board to anyone who does that. I think it's the most disrespectful and ignorant thing to sell someone's autograph online. I will never sell anything that I have ever been given to me. I would rather it be personalized to me because that means something to me. I don't just walk up to people if I don't know who they are or if they've made no impact to me. But here are these people who go to these shows every single weekend, all over the place somewhere, pretending to be a fan, and then really just go ahead and take their pictures or whatever they're doing and sell them on wherever, eBay or whatever else. You're ignorant, not them. You're the person who is disrespectful, not them. And another thing that I find annoying, tremendously annoying, is when I am at these shows and the supposed fans of the show are able to meet these celebrities thanks to the promoters. The promoters are the ones who bring these people in. And these people, because they have to wait in line or whatever the case may be, they get antsy and they get upset with the promoters. How dare this promoter make me wait in this line to get these 12 items signed by this celebrity that the promoter brought in for me and all the people to meet. Do you know how ridiculous that sounds? Do you know how petty that sounds? And there are many people who I have heard who claim to be fans of the show, who claim to have respect for our show, who disrespect the promoter on a regular basis. That's disgusting, two-faced, and ignorant. I heard it. I hear it all the time. Oh, he's only in it for the money. What money does he make on your... He brings these people in, he forks it in for more people, for you greedy people to meet. So, I really don't like when people are disrespectful to the people who make it a possibility for them to meet these heroes. Because where you see them as a money sign or someone to make a buck off of, there are some people that those people mean something to. Someone that those people have made an impact in their lives in some way. And ignorant people like you make it so that they do not want to go and sign autographs for people because they're going to get their stuff sold, because they don't see humanity. They see you with money signs in your eyes instead of respect for what they have done to entertain the masses of people. That's disgusting that they have to worry and question whether or not you're a real fan or you're just someone to make money off of them. Do you know what that sounds like? Do you know how disrespectful and how ungrateful that is? That these same people who are given those opportunities to meet these people then go ahead and trash about the promoter, and then you have the audacity, after you get your pat on the back and you get your 12 things signed, then you go over the promoter, oh, good show, promoter. You're two-faced, all of you. Grow up, show respect. I'm tired of it. But regardless, That is a pet peeve of mine, and that's something that I can't stand is two-faced people. I can't stand people who talk behind their back. So if you have something to say to someone, say it to their face. Don't say it to 700 other people who are probably upset about having to wait in line too. And then right after you get your thing signed, you're going to go and walk over to the promoter and be like goody-goody and be nice to that person's face because you're a two-faced punk. And there are many people, and by the way, I say punk, they come in all ages, all races, all sexes, all shapes and sizes. I just want to let you all know that I know who you people are. I see you, I hear you, you're disrespectful, you're ungrateful, and you make me sick to my stomach. You want to unfollow me? Unfollow me. I could care less. I would rather have real people who have real respect for people than a bunch of phonies who are there to make money off of somebody else's hard work and dedication. Punks. Thank you. So, that being said, I have to say that I had the opportunity to talk to these people, and I got to talk to Thomas Jane. By the way, I'm happy to report, folks, I did not find Thomas Jane to be, quote, a douchebag, is what I was told by the person who was upset about the 12 items that Thomas Jane didn't want to sign. I did not find that to be something that Thomas Jane was. I found Thomas Jane to be respectful. I thought he was on time. I thought he was very much pretty much what Thomas Jane would appear to be. Professional and courteous and respectful. And that was to people who were in front of me, myself, and anybody after me. Why did I talk to Thomas Jane? Because he was my favorite version of the Punisher, ladies and gentlemen. And guess what? I told him that. And it comes to find out, my son, who loved a couple of his baseball movie that he's done, loved that, and I told him that, and he thanked my son for liking his movie too. No, my son was not there. However, he was very much appreciative of my son's work, and that baseball movie was one of his favorite movies. Go figure. He thanked people who are veterans for their service, which is the most respectful thing you can do. With my wife as a veteran, I'm very happy to say that Thomas Jane has respect for veterans because I witnessed it. Thomas Jane was great to anyone who I got to see him with. He was great to me. He was thankful, and he thanked my son for liking his baseball movie, as I said. He thanked me for giving him the feedback about the Punisher. And I kept it moving. Why? Because that's all it should have been. How long do you have to talk to somebody for? I didn't get an autograph from Thomas Jane. I got a photograph with him. Because that's all I had time for. Because I was busy working to make sure you people could get your autographs that you wanted to sell to other people. Punks. Anyway, I wanted to happily say that Thomas Jane was nothing but professional, and he was fine. And in fact, I got to say this also: anyone who I ever had interaction with the entire weekend, I had absolutely no issues with. And I saw them with multiple people, and they were nothing but kind, respectful, and courteous. Anyone who says anything otherwise is lying, or probably sour because they wouldn't sign 12 of their items. As I roll my eyes at how petty that sounds. Seriously. I mean, how can you get upset about someone not wanting to sign 12 things? I want to point out, you have a line of people before you and after you, and now Thomas Jane has to sign 12 items to you, or his name 12 times just for you, and then he wants to sign more people behind you. How do you see him as the douchebag? Anyway, I have to say that that's ridiculous. Thomas Jane was professional. All of the Jasons were fantastic. I didn't have a lot of time to see a lot of other people. I got to say, happy. My old pen pal, Elijah Wood, was nothing but professional and great and kind, as always. He was friendly, and apparently a lot of people liked Elijah Wood. I knew he would be a hit. Hopefully he'll be back again. And And of course, yes, he was my pen pal from way back in the day. We did talk about that. You know, even though we're now in Friday, we're going to chat about the pen pal thing real quick. Do people out there who are old enough remember pen pals in school? For those people who are not aware, or maybe people aren't aware what they call it, maybe had a different name for it, but what our schools would do, and for the most part, it was all of elementary school. Our school were part of what we called a pen pal a pen pal program. And I had been through 2 elementary schools, mind you. In both elementary schools, I had pen pals at other schools or other places, and one of the people whom I became pen pals with was a young man who lived at that time, a kid my age who was living in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And of course, that person was, we kept on writing back and forth. And then even though I graduated and he graduated out of his class, we continued writing because we enjoyed writing back and forth. And we continued writing all the way up until he moved to California and I moved to a different area. Then we lost track of each other, and I guess he's done some pretty big things. By the way, again, that person was Elijah Wood. So I think his life turned out quite well, as I thought it would. But, we didn't have a lot of time to hang around this weekend. He was busy doing his thing. I'm busy working. But I did take time to go and say hello to him and thank him for being there. And he was, nothing but awesome as always. He does remember being me and all that stuff. One of the fun things is when he sees, it's my old pen pal, because he's got a pretty decent memory, folks. That's how we greet each other. Oh, it's the pen pal, and then we'll start chatting about the pen pal stuff and catching up real quick. But I didn't have a lot of time, so it wasn't like a long time thing. So we caught up real quick and kept it short, sweet, and to the point. So I want to thank everyone who came out to Monster Mania, the real fans who didn't disrespect anyone, who didn't, piss and moan over stupidity. And I want to say thank you to the Hagans, of course, for being the Hagans and being awesome. The Hagans, of course, are the ones who run Monster Mania, and as far as promoters go, I'm honored to call Dave my friend. And which is why I will not allow anyone to talk trash about my friends. I'm not a two-faced person. I will always back up my friends, no matter what the deal is. So there's that. So there's that. What else? But other than that, I didn't have a lot of time to really chat with a bunch of people because I was busy working. And I love being part of the team. I love working with it. It's a great time. And I am happy that, I'm happy to see that, fans who are real fans and whatever else really done really well. It's a great job closing out this Monster Mania. As this hotel that they held it in is closing. It is no longer a thing. So, nostalgia feels and stuff like that. I just got to say also this. I know a lot of people might be bumming out or whatever else, and I get it. I get that, the place, the building that they held Monster Mania for in Hunt Valley has been that place for years. But I want to point out that it's not a house it's not a physical building that makes a home. It's the people, the memories, the heart, the soul that goes into that building and the things that are going on within it that makes it a home. So as sentimental as you can be about that building, it's those memories will still live on no matter where it goes. Monster Mania is not going anywhere. It's just closing the building. So that home is just moving. That's all. It's going to have the same feel. It's going to be the same show. It's just a different location. I'm wondering if it's maybe it's because I moved around a lot as a kid that I don't have, me personally, I have no connection to a physical place. Of course, there are places that I enjoy going to more than others. But as far as a thing like this, to me, regardless of where it is, and one of the ongoing questions I was getting is, are you going to go to when it moves? And the answer was, yeah, wherever Monster Mania goes, I'm going. It's not about the building, it's about the show. It's about the people who are my family of Monster Mania. So wherever Monster Mania goes, I'm going. I don't care if it's Baltimore or whatever else. I want to remind people also, it's not like it's down the street from me to do these shows. It's about 5 hours driving. It's about 4 or 5 hours on the train, regardless. There's a bit of a difference between New Jersey and where I am in New England. That's a pretty good distance. I used to be even further away. But I come down there because I'm loyal to the show. I'm loyal to the Hagans. I love the people who I work with. They are my family. I enjoy seeing people have a good time. I want to make sure everyone there has a good time and are safe. Those are two important keys that people need to understand. That above all, my goal is to make sure, one, you're having a good time, and two, everyone is safe. And if that means I got to prevent you from going someplace or have to, stop you from becoming a nuisance, then that's what I have to do, because that's what my job is. It's not personal. It's what it is. You also have to understand is if I'm told to do an order or I'm told to do something, guess what? I have to do it, regardless if I like it or not. So there's that. But that's life, folks. That's life. So overall, Monster Mania, the event itself, 3 days long, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all stellar. Everyone did a great job. I didn't get to hang out with Corey Feldman, and that makes me upset. I'm sorry to Corey Feldman for not getting to see him. I was just nowhere near where Corey Feldman was during the show, unfortunately. That's how big it was and how busy I was and how busy he was. He was a busy individual over the weekend as well. I hope maybe next time I get to say hello and whatnot. I feel badly that we didn't get to do that. And I want to say also that I would have loved to have talked to him about his music. but it's not really about that for me with Corey Feldman. It's not so much his acting or his music that why I like Corey Feldman. I respect Corey Feldman for what he did for people like me who were in a bad situation home-wise, and he gave the opportunity. He basically, him and others like him, made it a thing and made it a possibility to take the measures to become my own guardian. And what Corey Feldman did is groundbreaking and gave people like myself hope. And that is why I wanted to thank Corey Feldman. Never mind the music and the movies, but to give a person like me hope that I don't have to be stuck in a home where where it's a toxic environment. I can be on my own and become my own person. People like him and Macaulay Culkin and numerous other people who have done that opened the doors for people like me. So that is why I was thanking Corey Feldman. So at the end of the day, hopefully Corey Feldman understands at some point we'll get together at that point. Some point. Someday. We'll see. But that's one person I didn't get to see this weekend just because we were busy and not in the areas we could make that happen. Everyone else I got to say hello to and got to catch up with at least for 10 seconds anyway. But as far as that goes, I'm not there for all that. I'm there to make sure everyone's having a good time and is safe. That's my overall responsibility. So there you go. And ants, let's move to the next subject. Well, no, before we move to the next subject, let's close out this Monster Mania 56 thing. So, coming home is a different story. as I mentioned, getting down there, no issues. I had to take a train to get to to Baltimore, and then there is a smaller train that takes you to Hunt Valley, which is like up my way. We call them trolleys, or a commute, or we call it a trolley, or there are multiple different train and trolleys type of thing that we call them up our way. It's a small above ground car. It's not a bus, or it's sort of like a bus, but it's a train. But anyway, I'm stumbling over my words to describe what a trolley is. But basically, it's an above-ground streetcar, and that's what they have in Baltimore that you take to Hunt Valley. So that was an issue. In all honesty, getting from Hunt Valley to the station, the Baltimore station, wasn't a bad deal. Here's where the problems lied. Baltimore has the sign, and I was there on time as always. And they had told everyone to board the train that was coming. And the train, apparently we were having issues on Sunday when I was returning home. And apparently the issues were that the trolley, or the conductor forgot. I'm talking about Amtrak now. Amtrak, now that I'm waiting to come back to my way, originally my train was supposed to leave at 5:55 p.m., which meant I would get home around a little bit after midnight, like 12:55, 1 o'clock or so. To give you a perspective of how long my train rides are, but that's basically what my ETA was home. However, the train decided, the conductor decided, got confused, ended up going south instead of north. I swear I still have to laugh and shake my head over this, but so as we're going down, we realize, we're going the wrong direction, and I had to get off at a place called Alexandria, which was in Virginia, which anyone who knows the geographic area of East Coast can tell you that is nowhere near where I was supposed to be. Again, I'm up in New England, and they were taking me to Virginia, and if I didn't get off when I did, I probably would have ended up who knows where. But yeah. So yeah, that was a thing. So I ended up in Alexandria, Virginia for a few, until they could figure out how to get us back home. Ended up having to go to Washington Central Station to catch a train, because as they were working on getting us back on, they forgot to tell us to get on the train that showed up. So they sent a bunch of us via other means to Washington General Station, which is in the capital. I'm telling you guys, I couldn't make this up. If I this is going to be an interesting book someday when I get to write my biography. But this trip coming home was the most bizarre one of all of the ones I have taken. It has to be by far the most obscure. Ended up in Alexandria, Virginia, and then in Washington, D.C. to get your train from Washington, D.C. to home, which is ridiculous. And basically, I got home at 6:30 a.m. Monday morning. So, and remember, I was up since early on for Monster Mania to work there, and then I was originally supposed to leave at 5:55 and get home about 1. That turned into 6:30 a.m. Monday. So, I guess the moral of the story is, remember, folks, whenever you're in a situation where you're in a situation where you're in another location and you are, or aka lost, just stay calm, relax, take a breath, and eventually it will work itself out. I am proof of that because I'm home now, and I've been home since Monday at 6:30 a.m. Other than other things I've had to do around my area, I am home, and I am safe, and I'm okay. And that's something you should probably remind yourself whenever you're in a situation where you think you're lost, or you're in a situation where things are out of your control. What are you supposed to do? Well, of course, the human response wants you to panic and wants you to get upset, wants you to freak out. But what I urge you guys to do is, yes, those are natural things. But remember to breathe, stop a minute, take a breath in, think about what's going on, and then act on how to fix it. And if something is already being done to fix that issue, then at least you know that is something that is being worked on, and there you have it. So remember to remain calm in a situation of when things are just out of your control. And remember to just stay alert and think of what you can do in that situation. There are definitely more crucial things you should be worried about. Like flying, for example, would probably be a nightmare. Imagine flying to the wrong area. But remember, even in those situations, remain calm and work on a responsible way to fix the situation. Freaking out, getting upset, blaming everyone in the world, getting annoyed, and swearing, yelling, and whatever else, it's not going to get you anywhere except for having everyone give you the side eye, maybe getting arrested or thrown out of the airport or the train station or wherever the case may be. And take it as a life lesson. I know from now on I'm driving no matter what. If I was under my own control of that situation, I would have figured out a way to get where I needed to be. Another good example goes back to the Monster Mania I went to, the last time in Hunt Valley, where I drove down. Actually, it was Hunt Valley. Both things were in Hunt Valley. That's interesting. Maybe it's cursed. But in Hunt Valley, when I was coming back the last time, going down there, I got lost for about maybe a half hour in New York City because I missed a turn for the bridge. But anyone who knows about driving in New York City, who has ever tried to drive through New York City, knows it's not as easy to just, quote, pull into a parking lot and throw the GPS on and turn around. Because ultimately, that was what my goal was. That was what I knew it had to be done, and that's what I did do. But needless to say, I ended up, where I needed to be anyway, because I remained calm, and there you go. So, there you go. That's the story on that. Anyway, I'm home. Monster Mania was great. Full depth thing maybe later. But for now, let's go to our next segment. Ants. All right, folks, we are back. Again, we are back. Here we are, again. And, yeah, as always. All right, folks, let's get into, why don't we get into this? That's fun. That's funny. Isn't that fun? All right, folks. We like to do things, we like to keep people entertained. We like to do film reviews. We like to talk about television and whatnot. So let's do that briefly real quick. Obviously, going to Monster Mania, I haven't had a lot of time to catch up on a lot of things. I did want to say that my wife and I both watched the Fall of the House of Usher on Netflix this week. Actually, yesterday. Literally yesterday. Everything in one day. Because, that's how we roll. We watched all of that in one day, which was delightful. No, it was honestly. So as you guys know, listening to how I do reviews, and you guys have listened to my take on how to look at certain items and whatnot. And yeah. So here's what I have my reception of the Fall of the House of Usher. Anyone who knows what the Fall of the House of Usher is, let me just clarify. Fall of the House of Usher, much like the most of this particular show, it is a TV series, first of all, on Netflix, and I'm just going to give you the meat and potatoes of it. I'm not going to give you the details, because I think you should see it. Especially with the holidays coming, the holidays being Halloween. We want to talk about horror. You want to talk about suspense. You want to talk about thrillers. Well, as many people love to listen and watch love to read, as I stumble all over my words. As much as people love to read Stephen King, we've got to remember that Stephen King even had someone to inspire him. And of course, Stephen King often said that two people that he enjoyed reading growing up and who inspired him were the original Bad Boy of Boston and one of the grandfather of goth, that being the grandfather of goth in the original. Yeah, he's the original goth kid, I guess you'd say, and that would be, of course, Edgar Allan Poe. And, of course, right after him, in the same area, you'd have to give that same credit, and Stephen King gives the other credit to H.P. Lovecraft, who is a New England basis. Edgar Allan Poe, originally from Boston, Mass. H.P. Lovecraft from Rhode Island. Stephen King currently lives in Bangor, Maine. Is this a trend? I don't know. That's interesting to look at. But let's just chat briefly about the Fall of the House of Usher. I'll probably do a full review on the whole thing later this weekend. But basically, as I said, this is set in modern time. I think it's set in modern time anyway. This is set in, I guess, modern time. And it has a large cast. I have to be honest, some of the cast you may not recognize, some of them you may. They definitely have done a great job with, telling the stories in a different and creative way. Basically, the premise of this particular show is we follow this family that apparently has been up to many interesting and things that people have been basically. This family basically has done a lot of creepy, bad things in their lifetime, and the idea, technically, of this show is they are now going to get their, well, I can't spoil a lot of things, so I'm going to avoid spoiling anything. But so avoiding that, let's we're gonna talk about the Edgar Allan Poe stories themselves. So basically, each of these episodes were based upon an Edgar Allan Poe short story or a poem, and there were references about a lot of other Edgar Allan Poe, garb, if you would, throughout the entire thing. I think you'd really have to be aware. You really have to know your stuff somewhat to understand how that worked. You'd have to, have basic understanding of classic Edgar Allan Poe to catch the little Edgar Allan Poe-isms. But I think overall, they did a really good modern telling of these stories in a concise story collection, which is interesting. Because basically what each of these episodes were, it followed the same premise, but they were different, based on different stories, just a different take on them. So if you like Edgar Allan Poe, Fall of the House of Usher would probably be a show you would enjoy. Very dark at times. Has a pretty quick jump scare ratio. It has pretty good makeup effects, I have to say, as well. So, yeah, I'd have to say that it was quite interesting, to say the least. If you like Edgar Allan Poe. I grew up loving Edgar Allan Poe. I think he's brilliant for what he did. And a lot of people maybe forget a lot of what Edgar Allan Poe has done and whatnot. They think they know as much about Edgar Allan Poe, and they go with, the negativity things that are associated with Edgar Allan Poe. But there are a lot of things about Edgar Allan Poe a lot of people might not know. Like, for example, did you know that Edgar Allan Poe was a veteran? Edgar Allan Poe was stationed at Fort Independence in South Boston, and Fort Independence is now featured on what's called Castle Island. That castle is where the very well-known Edgar Allan Poe story, which, by the way, does pop up in here, Castle Amontillado, that is a story that he had heard that happened at that very base prior to him showing up there. And that is where he got the inspiration behind that short story. So there's some fun facts. So he was a veteran there. He was born here in Boston. And what's really interesting was that now the interesting part about Edgar Allan Poe was, the fact that as tragic as his life was, it was a real life tragedy, which is where the goth thing comes from. You talk about tragedy. If you were to look at all of the things that follow Edgar Allan Poe in his lifetime, you'd be like, oh, this poor guy. Because literally he's had all kinds of nasty things. And I want to point out, he's also died penniless, broke, not famous. He didn't become famous until after he was dead. He died broke. He died on the side of the street, from what I understand, in Baltimore, oddly enough. But he is originally a Boston guy. So, there's that. Edgar Allan Poe was, enough about Edgar Allan Poe. We know about Edgar Allan Poe. You know who he is. And Fall of the House of Usher is basically a modern telling of various of those stories following the same premise of a family that has that. So, there you go. That's what that is. So let's move on, I suppose, to the next subject, because this is all over the place. So next. All right, we're back. That was horrible. That was just horrible. That segment was terrible. I'm sorry for those people. And everyone who worked on that show, I want to apologize to them. I will do a better deep dive on that show later. But you know what? When it comes to this next segment, I take this one very seriously. And this has probably become my new favorite part of the show. And why is it my favorite part of the show? Because I get to recognize some amazing real-life Dream Masters and Dream Warriors. So, without further ado, let us hit that music.
In the eyes of a ranger, the unsuspecting stranger had better know the truth of wrong from right. 'Cause the eyes of the ranger are upon you. Any wrong you do, he's gonna see. When you're in deck, Texas, look behind you, 'cause that's where the Ranger's gonna be.
Yep, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. My favorite segment now. That's our new intro to our shout-out episode, our shout-outs. Isn't that exciting? I think it is. Thank you, Chuck Norris, for those kind words for that. First and foremost, I want, since we know it is Thursday, a little bit of a throwback Thursday thing. Does anybody remember watching Walker, Texas Ranger on television back when it was on? For those people who are not aware, by the way, it's on somewhere. I think it's on Peacock right now. And yes, my wife and I have watched a few episodes here and there. But what made it special was that we as teenagers would watch Walker, Texas Ranger, and we made it the original, I guess we would say we made it the original drinking game. Now, again, for those people who are not aware, I do not drink alcohol, I don't smoke cigarettes, I don't do any of those kinds of things. But in my youth, I did drink soda pop a lot. And on occasion, these days, if I talk about having hardcore drinking, it's usually me drinking soda pop. That's my idea of a hard drink, is a cup of Pepsi Cola. Ooh, now I shudder when I think of that. But as kids, we're rebellious. We want to be, we wanted to do something fun. So on Saturday nights when Walker, Texas Ranger was on, we made it kind of a game. And we were like, okay, so every time Walker does, we had some type of rule, whatever that was that week, whether it be a Chuckism, every time Chuck does one of his Chuckisms, or when he does, every time he does the spin kick, or every time that he, for each one of the people he fights 5-on-1, you got to take a drink of your soda or whatever it was we were drinking. It was soda. We were teenagers, but that was something that we look forward to back in our youth, our younger days, our teenage days when Walker was on television. Saturday nights, that's what our entertainment was, to watch Walker, Texas Ranger, and make light of the fact that there was a lot. Maybe it wasn't the greatest show looking back, even as an adult now watching. I'm like, oh. But the fun fact is that you could actually make a game out of watching how nostalgic it is. And literally everyone makes the Chuck Norris jokes, which, by the way, Chuck Norris is aware of the Chuck Norris jokes. Thought I'd remind people of those things. And if you think that Chuck Norris has never heard a Chuck Norris joke, then you'd be mistaken. And also, if you were someone who thinks that Chuck Norris would be upset or angry about these jokes, well, I got some news for you. He's got more important things to worry about, and he has bigger things to fry. And the fact that Chuck Norris is Chuck Norris, he does not need to worry about things, and he doesn't. He doesn't worry about small things like a joke. In fact, Chuck Norris finds a lot of the Chuck Norris jokes humorous himself. But he is all about respect. And I'll tell you this also, not many people will tell a Chuck Norris joke to Chuck Norris's face, even though Chuck Norris enjoys Chuck's isms. That's a lot of Chucks in one story. But anyway, so Walker, Texas Ranger was a great developmental thing in the youth day, in our younger teenage days, and we celebrate a lot of those days by watching those. On Saturday nights when people watch television together as a family or whatever. And, so I guess this Walker, Texas Ranger, having this as our theme to our shout-outs is appropriate, because Walker, Texas Ranger, or Chuck Norris himself, is crucial in developing and helping develop people like myself and inspiring a lot of people. Whether or not he is directly responsible for these people to be as awesome as they are, because, not everyone is into the combat sports world or in the action genre, but people are successful in their own right, so I like to think that everybody is successful as Chuck Norris. So, that is why this is our new intro theme for our shout-out portion, because you're as awesome as Chuck Norris. if you're getting one of these shout-outs. So let's start those, huh? All right. I'm going to it. Here we are. All right, we got a slew of shout-outs. First and foremost, I want to shout out Dave Hagen of Monster Mania for this past weekend. It was a great success, despite whatever else people want to say or think or dream about. It was a great event. It was a great way to end the show. Hopefully Dave's feeling well. Those people who know. It was successful, and I'm proud to be part of it. There's that part. So thank you to Dave and the Hagens for running another successful, smooth show and helping to make my job easier, helping them help themselves. So there's that. All right. The next person I want to recognize is, the Adele boys, because they were in the neck of the woods this past weekend. The Adeles, Connor Stellmeyer, and a few others were in Atlantic City, New Jersey, which, all honesty, was not far from where I was. So that was interesting. Also, Jake the Snake LeBlanc was with the Adeles because they trained together, as I mentioned. What a nightmare team that is. But one of these days I'm going to go to one of these events and see these people in person, because this will be quite something to see in person. To say I saw a future UFC champion in their prime is pretty awesome. I also have to say that I have a pretty good knack for knowing who is going to be future UFC champion. If you got a couple of weeks back, I had given a list of people who I believe to be future UFC champions. And since that time, names on that list, all of the Adele boys, Jake the Snake LeBlanc, Action Jackson Baker, Dmitry Chenikov, Henry Nairo Mena, Connor Stellmeyer, Noah the Nightmare Tyndall, Anthony Debbleweeks, Isaiah Trinya, all of them, along with Elijah Furton and Riker and Ryder the Nation Lockwood. Since I gave that list, every single one of those people between then and now have already won and added more gold, more titles to their legacies already. I know my stuff, folks. I know that you people might think that I may be outdated. Maybe things have changed too much since you competed yourself. Listen, I know real fighters. I know who has the drive, and I know what sets people aside from everybody else. The people who I gave a list to, those people who I said are future UFC champions one day, they are people that I believe in, that will be UFC champions one day if they choose to. They have personality, they have perseverance, they have glamour, they have respect. Right? Sergey Yakovlev out of Russia, another young man, a judo champion. Heart of gold. He is very respectful for his mom, and I know that some people might not see how important it is to show respect to your parents, but you know what? When I see kids who give that respect to their parents and give that respect to the parents who are the ones who are supporting these goals and their dreams, that warms my heart, because that's an amazing thing to see. It is easy for people to forget those who helped us get to where we need to be in life. It's a lot harder to keep note and to give that praise to those who deserve it. It's easy for us to take all of the acceptance on our own. We're the ones who did this. We did this. We won. But What you're forgetting is the countless people who sacrifice so that you can succeed. Your mom, your dad, your support system, whoever you live with, whoever supports you, your senseis, your dojo, your other students, your rolling buddies, right? Your locker room generals. Doesn't matter what sport you're adapting to. Doesn't matter what you're competing in life. Doesn't matter what you're doing in life. Every step of the way, you're going to meet people who are going to make an impact in your life. You're going to meet people who will either add or subtract to the good and the bad that you will aspire to be. You will learn lessons from everyone you'll encounter in life. But it's going to be up to you to decide which of those lessons you want to learn and want to hold on to that knowledge. And those of you who want to learn it from the opposite perspective, how not to do something, what not to be. I'll give you an example. I myself grew up with no dad. I myself grew up with no one in my blood coming to any of my sporting events. But do you know what? When I had kids of my own, I decided I am the dad and I am going to be there every step of the way. When my son plays basketball, I'm going to be there. When my daughter wants to sing at a recital, I'm going to be there. When they graduate high school, I'm going to be there. Ladies and gentlemen, you never forget who got you where you need to be in life. And you never forget how you got to be where you are. I learned from others how not to be to make me a better version of me. I saw the effects on drugs and alcohol on people whom I cared about. I saw it tear away lives and take away lives, countless in my own family. I made a conscious effort not to drink, not to drug, not to get involved in those things throughout my entire lifetime. Is it easy? Not always. Because there are people who are going to look at you side-eye and say, well, why won't you have a drink? Be responsible. Why won't you have a cigarette with me? Why don't you smoke a marijuana? It's legal now. It's not about it being legal. It's not about being able to do something just because I am of age to do so. It is a lot easier to say, I'm going to do this to cope with that. It's a lot easier for me to take a drink, to have a cigarette, to take a shot, a hit off a marijuana, whatever they call them, a joint. I don't know what they call marijuana things. I don't do them. Do I know people who do? Yes. Do I judge them? No. Because that is their journey, not mine. It is not up to me to tell everyone else how they can live. Myself, I am in charge of me. I am in charge of my own journey, my own discipline, my own path. That is why I made a decision that when they give me a hard time because I'm not drinking an alcohol beverage, I'll have a soda pop. That's as I said at the beginning of this show, that's, to me, having a glass of Pepsi is like having a beer for somebody else. I don't need to drink alcohol to fit in with someone. I don't need to smoke to make someone else feel better. I don't need to take a hit on something to feel better. Listen, in life, sometimes things are hard. But what you got to remember is that you take the life lessons from each of these things that you encounter in your life, the hard times, the good times, adapt all that to your life lessons. That makes you a stronger fighter. Not necessarily, even if you're not someone who competes in active combat sports, that initiative, that fighter instinct, That being able to learn from mistakes and learn and being able to observe what's going on around you and then separate yourself from that, that makes you a stronger person, a more educated person, and it helps you develop as time goes on. The people I mentioned are real life dream masters. Do you know what makes them a dream master? They each have their own collective dreams, and they work on them to make them happen. They don't dream it. They don't just say, I want to do this. They put the work in, the blood, the sweat, the tears, the grit that goes into adapting and making those things happen. Now, I want to mention, I'm not just talking about the people who do sports. That same work ethic, that same blood, sweat, tears, and grit lies in any goal that one has. Whether it be someone like the Adeles or Dmitry Chernikov or Action Jackson or Elijah Furton, who are all prime combat sports specialists, who are primed to be UFC champions, along with Noah Tyndall and Anthony Demoweeks. By the way, shout out to redheaded terror Anthony Demoweeks, who earned his next belt this past weekend. Also, I think the youngest of the Adeles got upgraded as well as far as the belt department. Do you know what that belt symbolizes to me? I want to just take a second to give my thoughts on the whole belt system. And people who are not into the combat sports world or the martial art world may or may not know. There are some martial arts that have a belt system. And people often overlook or people often degrade each of those colors, each of those colored belts. And here's what I'm going to tell you. It doesn't matter if you're a white belt or a black belt. What those colors signify, it means you have grown in knowledge. It means you have grown in spirit. It means you have earned the opportunity to become higher ranked in that world. You have earned more respect. You have put in enough work to get there, but to keep going. That's what the belts signify. It's an incentive program to continue to keep working, but it's also a symbol of your work and ethic that you've already put in. Are you someone that's had the same belt color for a number of years, you haven't advanced? That's on you. That's because you're not putting in enough work to move to the next level. The belt that you will see people continue to grow and continue to add their color scheme, right? And no matter what belt system you're in, whether it be in judo, kenpo, Muay Thai, whatever. Well, actually, Muay Thai doesn't have a belt system. Traditional Muay Thai does not have a belt system. I want to point that out real quick. I do have that knowledge as well. But as far as kenpo, judo, and chun kudo, those have a belt system. I have a black belt in each of those. I also have a tremendous amount of skill within boxing and Muay Thai, which do not have belt system. At least Muay Thai did not have a belt system then. If they have invented one in the meantime, then okay. But in my day, there was no belt system to the Muay Thai. As traditional Muay Thai does not call for such things. But that being said, each of those belts that you get, that's the easiest way for you to gauge how much work you're putting in and how you're growing. Sometimes when we're achieving, we forget and we lose focus to what we're doing. Sometimes we work so hard, we do not take credit for when we do succeed in these manners. But what these belts signify, ladies and gentlemen, what these belts signify are the fact that you have put the work in, the time, the effort to successfully meeting all expectations, to earning the opportunity to become a higher ranked system. Each of those belts is more knowledge, more recognition, more of your work ethic. When you get to be a black belt, you have done that, and then you continue going and adding your stripes. And that is the knowledge, that is a symbol of your work ethic, your time, your commitment, your drive, your grit, your leadership. So whenever anyone looks at you side-eye about your belt, no matter what belt color you have, you earned that belt color one way or the other, and that is the best way for you to gauge your growth as a competitor when you're doing those things. Now, if you're someone who is doing something more entertainment-wise, you're doing things like dancing competitively, singing, or there are other ways to gauge those types of things. How many sellers you have, how many people will come to support your album, how many people will come see you at a concert. That's how you gauge your movement with that. I have been fortunate enough in my lifetime to achieve a lot of different things in different elements. I wanted to become a pro wrestler. I became a pro wrestler. How do I gauge my thing? Well, in all honesty, are there people in the seats when I'm going to these places? And when I am in these places, how many of those seats are filled and how many people are walking around because they're not invested in me or what I'm doing? That's what that signifies. And that is kind of something that a lot of people will look at and wonder, is this the end all be all? Can we, can we achieve more? And the answer is yes. It doesn't matter what your goal is, you can always do more. And the thing about it is, when you get those, those colored rankings, it's important to remember how you got there. You don't walk into a dojo and know all of the various techniques in order for you to succeed. You learn those as you go along. And you learn those from your I don't know what everyone calls their coaches, your trainers, your senseis, your professors, your whatever they call your person who's developing your skills. These are the people who they should make an impact on you, and those are the people who you want to represent. And I have been fortunate enough to have the best trainers who've taught me more about life than they did about the actual sports involved. And I am fortunate enough, I've had people who have helped get me where I am. Yeah, granted, I left home at 15 years old, ladies and gentlemen, because it was a toxic environment, and I knew that. I felt I was better off alone than with the family that I was born into. And I helped form the F4L, my own family. Family of my real friends. People who had the same morals, with love, caring, compassion, understanding, and respect for each other's differences. The F4L way. We bonded together over this. We became one. And we have opened the doors to many people who have often felt alone and alienated in a situation where they didn't have that prior. There's always someone who wants something more. There's always someone who wishes they had something more. Whether it be time or a person. People would often ask me, would you like to meet your dad someday? First and foremost, I don't have a dad. I've not known him. He was gone before I was even born. There is no dad. My mom was someone who stuck by. My mom helped raise me for a little while. And the thing about it is, you got to remember that despite the cons and the things that weren't so great about growing up, at the end of the day, my mom was my mom, and my mom stuck by me, and my mom raised me, and she fought like heck to keep me. A lot of people aren't aware that, before I was born, the family was not so supportive of my mother having given birth to me. And they tried through great lengths to prevent her from doing so. And she kept on fighting them. She said, "This is my responsibility. I made this choice, and I'm going to live with it." She didn't have to do that, but she did. At a young age, she did that for me and my brothers and my sister. And I told you this story before, how she raced into a burning building when we were 7 years old. I was not home. I was at my aunt and uncle's house. But it was all over the newspapers, all over the media. 1987, ladies and gentlemen. It was about 3 weeks after Christmas. We lost everything in our first home to a horrific electrical fire. My mother went in the building, that house, 3 times to bring out my brothers and my sister. Her hair was on fire, literally. The firefighters and the neighbors tried to prevent her from going in the house. She said, "No way in hell, my kids are in there." That is a hero. That's a real hero, not someone who does it for a badge or money. That's what a hero does. They do things for others expecting nothing in return. She is a mom. Her babies were in trouble, and she went into action to save them. She could have sat outside and did none of that, but she didn't. She went into that house and saved my brothers and my sister. And that wasn't the only altercation. My mother would often fight with school staff and tell them how, they're not as awesome as they think they are. I would often be called names, not by the students, by the teachers. The kids in school did not bully me. The teachers would look at me with side eyes because they knew where I came from. They knew that I was so-and-so's kid. And that was something that was put on me by my own family. Because they knew someone who went to that school prior, and they automatically associated me with that person. They knew that my mother was a young mother. They knew I had no father. So automatically, I have to have something wrong with me. Folks, ladies and gentlemen, I want to point out, don't let someone put you into some category you don't belong in. At the end of the day, you know yourself better than anyone. You should know yourself better than anyone. You need to stay true to yourself. And I encourage people to make goals and go after whatever it is that makes them themselves. It's important for us as parents to recognize when our kids are either taking on too much and putting on too much responsibility on themselves, or we as parents have to do a better job supporting our kids and making sure they're doing what's right for them, not for us. And I am grateful and thankful that I have only associated with people who are out there for the better interest of their kids. They sacrifice for their kids. The hours at work, the travel expenses, the things, the equipment, the sponsorships, the contracts that have to be signed. I hope that one day all of these warriors, all of these people who are working on whatever it is their goals are, can look back and say, hey, my parents did this for me. My dad took me to this martial art tournament. My dad drove all the way here and there to make sure I made it to my tournament. My dad, my mom, whoever it is that you live with, who you surround yourself with. Remember, to make your goals happen, they are doing things to help you succeed. You might not know all of the burdens that they have to take on. You might not know everything that they have to sacrifice in order for you to succeed. I can tell you as a father, as a parent, there have been times in the harder times, I should say, there are times when I had very little money at one point, and I wasn't able to buy my own food, but guess what? My son, I made sure my kids, my daughter and my son could eat. And there are times when I will buy them food and I will go hungry. And I will drink water so that they can eat. That is a sacrifice. I will go to work countless hours to bring in money at a job that I do not like so they have a roof and food on the table. But you know what? The old ways of doing things, the old way of parenting is, well, that's enough. You went to work all day and you've done your job as a dad. You've done your job as a parent. That's not what I do. Because after I've taken the time to work and bust my rear end at a job I'm not overly fond of to make sure my family has what they need in life, I then come home after all of that to make sure I check with both of my kids and my wife to make sure everyone's okay. I take that time to talk to my daughter, to talk to my son, to talk to my wife, to make sure their days are okay, no one's giving them a hard time, and that life is okay. I am an observant parent. I'm a parent who is involved in his kids' lives. I've been accused of being overprotective at times. And I would much rather have the term of overprotective parent than a forgetful or neglectful one. I would much rather be accused of being an overprotective parent than the parent that didn't do enough to help their kids. There are ways that we were grown up. A lot of parents are stuck in ways that they were learned as younger people. There are old terms that have been used to us, to people of my age and older, that are outdated and nonsensical. Sticks and stones will break your bones. Names will never hurt you. Fact is, the statistics, the logistics, and the countless studies that have been done on why that is a lie, why that is bad advice, and why that is fictitious. These people who tell you how to deal with bullies, turn the other cheek, just ignore him. These are fake, fictitious, and they do not work. Well, how do you deal with those things? You deal with it head on. You take away the power of the bully. The bully lives on power. And when you give into that power and you show them that fear and you show them all that, they live on that. But when you take that away from them, they move on and they're done. That is the years of experience I've had in that field, folks. My life experience has taught me how to tell people how to stand up for themselves and how to stand up for others who can't stand up for themselves, because guess what? There are two kinds of people in the world. The person who will see something wrong and continue walking. And then there's the person who will walk down that same street, will see something wrong, and without saying anything, without thinking twice, they jump in to see what they can do to help. That is the two kinds of people in this world. You're either a helper or not. And we live in a society where I would hope that everyone would want to support each other and help each other. But instead, I've seen it. Kids pull out their, whenever there's a fight in school or someone's getting bullied, the first impulse today is to pull out a cell phone and record it and put it on social media, because that's helpful somehow. You want to be helpful? Put the phone down and do something. Interject yourself if you see something wrong. Or, if you want to have the phone involved, use the phone to call someone. If you can't do something yourself, use the phone to call someone who will know how to end it in a manner. Because when you do not take action and you see something like that, you're adding to the problem. And you have added to the misery of someone else. But when you take that time to stand up for someone you care about, when you take that time to stand up for a new friend, that takes courage. It takes drive. It takes a leader. And I wanted to say this too. I thought just when I thought I had all the respect in the world for some people, they go ahead and they add more respect because they do things that absolutely leaders do. They do things that role models do. Or they should, I should say, do. This past week, I saw people like the Adele boys step up in training new students. I saw Sergei Yuklev over in Russia doing the same thing. I saw Arseny Verkovets, the Russian football star, helping his new teammates. I see people who are still helping others while they're still continuing on their own journey to greatness. And let me tell you, when I see people who are willing to help others, who potentially one day could challenge them, to have that kind of commitment and that respect, it is a moving thing, folks. It's a sign of respect. And honestly, you need people like them to keep the sport alive the right way. Action Jackson Baker, Dima Chernikov, and the countless other people who are just kind of stepping their feet into the water, they're going to be great. They're going to be champions because they continue to work hard for that. And you know why else? Because they continue to have a support system. People who care about them and people who want them to succeed. That is the key. Belief in oneself, and as long as you have one other person to back you up, you will achieve all you set out for. And that's in sports. When it comes to speaking in the terms of film or television or any of those things, and there are even more iconic people who are willing to step up and help. I just read today, I haven't read all into it, and I'll have more response about it later once I find out all the details. I don't like to speak out of turn, and I don't like to give false information, so I'm going to do further research on this. But I did hear that some A-listers in Hollywood are willing to give up some of their money in order to end the acting strike. I am a little confused about that because I don't see how that is going to help them. The actors who have earned their own money and their own thing, that the union helped get those actors, is saying that this, by these big actors giving some of their money to the smaller actors, that somehow will end the strike versus the studios and all the people you were claiming you were going after before. Pardon me if I'm confused about this. I don't see how that helps. What does that have to do with your AI issue and your other issues you have on strike? You know, last week I had read an article on this whole actor strike, and I'm debating. All right, well, here's the deal. Sometimes you have to, in order to help others, you have to be willing to put yourself out there and do some things that not everyone will. So I'll be that guy. So I had come across some stuff that I'm not sure all my acting friends who are in the SAG union are aware of. The reason I say this is because generally how the union works is they don't bring or present anything to the union or its members without, first they have to think it's a good idea, and then they'll present the idea to the actors to vote on in the union. The issue is, I know that there have been things that have been offered that I'm not even aware that the actors are aware are being offered, that the studios have been offering, and that the people running the thing are turning down on their behalf, but are also not presenting it to the actors they're supposed to represent. I also know who's running their campaign, and I also know something about SAG. I'm not 100% certain the actors even know, and it's got me concerned. And what I'm torn about is, do I share that information with those people, with my friends who are in the acting union so they're aware of it? Or do I let nature play its course? Well, I guess we all know where I'm going to do what I'm going to say next. Sometimes to be a leader, you have to do things not the easiest way, but the right way. And sometimes to be a leader, you have to say things and do things that might not necessarily be easy, but they are right. I just said that statement twice because there is no other option for me but to share that information with everyone on the show next week. In fact, on Talking Tuesday, this coming week, actually, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to see if this magic works again. The last time I had said something about the unions and the strikes, almost immediately there was a deal made not long after. So let's try this again on behalf of my acting friends. I'm going to give till Sunday, this coming Sunday, for there to be a deal met. If that deal is not met by Sunday, I'm going to do this show, and I am going to do a live show with video, me talking and showing things, and I'm going to give the actors the information they're not getting. And then I'm going to reveal some things that are hard to see for people who I care about, who I am friendly with, who I have a lot of respect for, but it's because I have that respect for them, I feel they have a right to know. Because if you see something that's wrong and do nothing to stop it, then you're not helping the situation. But I want to give the union their opportunity to fix it and to be honest with the actors and the people that they represent. Because if they don't, then I'm going to reveal the information that I have that is all backed up, and I do have facts behind it. And when I reveal these things, it might be hard for actors to hear who are in the union. But understand that it's real and it's honest, and I'm not going to candy coat things, and I'm not going to blow smoke. These are going to be documented things. These are real things that you're going to see maybe for the first time. And it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that I have to be the person to bring those things to your information. And I want to point out also, I am not siding with the studios either. I am doing this merely because you have a right to know what is going on. Because I'm not 100% certain you are. I'm not certain you know who's going in there and talking on your behalf, they've already broken away from that. And almost 24 hours after I read what I read last Thursday, that was when I got the information. That's when everyone found out that the deals fell through again, and they walked away from the table. Listen to me. I have friends who are in the SAG, who are hungry, who are starving, who need work. It's great that the writers are back from strike, but guess what? They can write all they want, but without actors, there's no movies to be made. The words that they write will not be spoken by someone who can read it. So, that's great on that end. But someone needs to step up and do things the right way. And someone needs to be honest. And someone needs to speak in the third way. So, again, I have been blessed to be someone who can look at everything in three ways. One side, the other side, and then the reality of it. I want to point out, I want to go on record by saying, I do not agree that the studios are, I don't agree that the actors are, I want to make sure I'm clear on this. I want to be clear. I am not siding with the studios, and I'm not even siding with SAG. I am speaking on behalf of my friends who are in the actors union. Let me be clear on that. And the information that I'm going to give you all isn't a conspiracy. It isn't doctored. It's not coming from some other source. It's coming from reality. In all honesty, it's coming from someone who is part of all that. And I want to share those things because I respect all of the actors and actresses who have made all of these things possible. And I feel like you have a right to know everything that's going on. So, that being said, Sunday, this coming week, I will have that conversation with you guys. Because I've had enough. I'm tired of watching my acting friends struggle to pay their bills, to do the things that they love to do, and to go to work. Making magic happen. So, stick around for that. That'll be this weekend, unless a deal is made. Because to not have that information, to not know who's going to bat for you, to not know that deals have been offered that you're not even seeing is disrespectful to you. And I'm someone who's not with the studios, nor am I with SAG. I'm with you individually, the actors themselves, because I care about you. My friends who are actors and actresses who worked in the industry, who support their families, who continue to make magic happen, I'm going to do it for all of you. It may be hard to hear, it may be hard to see, but you have a right to know what's going on. And if no one is willing to do that for you, then I am going to be that person. And I'll take the backlash, I guess, of it. But I want to point out, I'm not for the unions and I'm not for the studios. I am for the individual actors and actresses who I am talking about. Because I could care less about corporate people and people who, because either way, it's red tape on both ends. I'm talking about the men and the women directly resulting. And the real victims of this are the people caught in the middle, the actors and the actresses, the people who are suffering from this strike. Because they are not informed to everything that is going on. And they have a right to. So make sure you tune in this weekend, as I am going to do so. You'll get till Sunday to fix your problem, SAG. In studios, come clean with your audience. Come clean with your people, SAG. Tell the people what the reality is, because on Sunday I'm going to tell them. I'm going to tell them who's going and negotiating for them. And then I'm going to let them decide. They should decide. Actually, shouldn't they vote to see who runs their campaign? Well, anyway, I'm going to tell all of those actors and actresses that you supposedly represent the real story. So they have that information at least. And if they want to choose to continue doing it, they can. They don't have a choice in the matter. But they have a right to know. So fix it by Sunday, or I am going to do it on Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm coming on the F4L Headquarters podcast, and I am going to do live with video, and I'm going to show the world what is going on. I'm going to show the actors who's running their campaign for them, to ask them if this is something that they knew about. I bet they didn't. I'm going to ask them if they knew anything about these offers that were made to them that they don't know about, that you said no to. So, because I care more about people than either corporation, either thing. It's a corporate thing, one way or the other. Either you're a union, which is a corporate thing. It is. Union's corporate, whatever. Union is an entity. It's not a people. It's a thing. Government or whatever else, that's a thing. Studios is a thing. I'm talking about the people directly who I'm talking about. I want them to have the knowledge because they deserve it. Stop lying to everybody. Tell them the honesty, or else I'm going to do it for you. There you go. I'll end it for you. There you go. So, leave it to me to speak truth to people. And I want to point out, I am a filmmaker. So don't give me that I don't work hard on whatever else. I've done the acting, and I have been blessed to have some of the best talented people working under me. And one of the best feelings ever is to see something you've worked on hard together as a team done and completed in front of you. This has prevented that from happening. And you can blame both sides. The studio should have been paying attention to making sure everyone's happy, and you should have been honest with your members. So, there you go. Any of my acting friends who are listening to this right now, if you want to know what I'm talking about directly before then, you know how to reach me. I'll tell you. But in the meantime, I'll talk to you guys then. I will tell the world on Sunday if it's not resolved by then. So if you want to know what the real story is, I'm going to show you. If not, if you want to know before that and you're a friend of mine, reach out and I will tell you what's going on. The real story. Because you deserve to know. You should know who's representing you. You should know that things have been offered and they're not being put to you guys because they don't think it's worth it. In all honesty, some of the things I've seen, I think you should have had a look at it at least. But regardless, when you find out who's running your campaign, you'll find out why it's probably not worked out. In the meantime, tune in on Sunday. If you want to know indirectly, reach out to me. Again, I'm not talking about the sports people. I'm talking about the acting world, unfortunately. To the sports world, everyone's going to continue working their way up and doing their own thing because that's the way to do it. So, may all your dream. That is going to do it for me, I think, this evening. So, let's get the ants to bring us to our final countdown. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a longer show than I planned on, but it was also a spot show. Anyway, I didn't plan on doing a show today until one of the fans asked me, hey, could you do a show tonight and chat about certain things? I said, sure. Before I go, I just want to acknowledge that we did have our Icons of the F4L show yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday was up on YouTube. Sorry about the delay on the 14th. As you guys know, I was down at Monster Mania for the 14th, so I wasn't able to get that show out to you guys. But yesterday, I think we made up for that. It was a heck of a show. We have 2 new champions. We have a new number 1 contender. It was a fantastic show. Everyone put on a clinic and everything. Dmitry Chernikov made his debut early. Prior to 2024, he debuted early, and we're proud to have him start early. That was a success. We also had our tag team, a mini tag team tournament to crown the BA MMA Grand Prix Tag Team Champions. And everyone involved in every of those matches put down clinics. Came down to the Night Terrors. The Night Terrors it came down to. Noah, the Nightmare Tyndall, and the Redheaded Terror, Anthony Demoweeks, and of course, the Adele Boys, Mason the Hammer, and Ty the Devil Adele of the Adele Boys. That's what it came down to, and of course, in the end, and after a heck of a battle, let me tell you, it was an absolute war between those 2 teams. In the end, only one team can win, and that team was the Adele Boys walking away for the tag team titles. But guess what? In our world, you defend those titles, and I can't wait to see who's next. So, stick around to that. That will be a Friday show normally. But because we need to get our shows aligned, and because we're going to be the alternative of wrestling now, we're going to start things over on Monday with the Dream Masters Universal division. But we may do a special show today for the Universal today. So stick around to our YouTube show, well, the channel where you're listening to this right now. And a little later on today, we'll have a spot show, or another Universal show with our Universal division, where we may have another debut of another exciting superstar a little early. We always give in to those who we believe in, and we believe in these people. So, until then, everyone, may all your dreams come true. I'm the F4L Icon. Congratulations to all the winners and the new Dream Masters BA MMA Grand Prix champion, Action Jackson Baker. That was an Iron Man match. I lost my voice. That's probably why I had no voice most of the day. Thank you, guys. Because the war between he and Big E Elijah Furton was absolutely a barn burner. It had to be the main event because nothing was going to top that match. It was spot on the best match of the night. Everyone put on a great show, but when you want to look at that was a match of grit, determination, and skill. It was fantastic to watch all of it, and congratulations to the new champ. But I want to remind people that the former champion gets the first opportunity, so we're going to have. So Big E is going to be the first in line. So if you guys missed it the first time, make sure you tune into Baker versus Furton 2, because that's going to be iconic, I'm sure, as well as all kinds of other things. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is now Friday. May all your dreams come true. Enjoy your weekend. Peace, everybody.